Yo, welcome everyone, Sanjae Uchiha here. So yeah man, I'm late to the party when it comes on to actually, putting together my concise thoughts on this latest chapter of the Boruto Manga Chapter 60. But yo, life happened, work has been hectic, but here I am, better late than never. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. But yeah man, welcome to the review, and yeah man, trust me, honestly, Chapter 60. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, it might be the even number that's, kind of making like a psychological effect on me, but Chapter 60 feels like a nice, accomplishment for, at first Kodachi, and now Kishimoto is continuing, has taken the baton from him. But, when you convert that into weekly chapters, it's probably about well over 150 weekly chapters, so it's a decent portion. But anyway, Chapter 60, honestly, coming out of this chapter, I personally loved it, but to be honest, I can see potentially where a lot of persons feel like this chapter might have been probably a waste of time, extremely slow, or especially with the monthly format, getting a chapter like this, I can see persons potentially complaining about it. But here we are, let's break it down, let's kind of discuss what worked, what didn't work. So yeah, leave a like and let's get into it. So Chapter 60, a place to belong. Personally, I love the chapter. As I said, it is somewhat of a slower paced chapter, but that's because really and truly we take a break from a plot driven chapter to more so a character driven chapter, if I do say so myself. If you've watched my time skip coming later than we expect video, I'll probably leave a link to that at the end or as a card. One of the things I was saying, that as the title of that video and the thumbnail of that video implied, we're getting the time skip probably a bit later than we might anticipate or are probably theorizing, because there are a number of things that Kishimoto will need to go over and set up for before the time skip. And I was kind of glad to see that some of the stuff I talked about in that video actually is continuing to take root with this chapter. Especially, for example, Kawaki. One thing I talked about was the fact that we are focusing on his character arc, especially since Ikimoto said that, the versus match between Boruto and Kawaki on the Hokage monuments isn't too far off. So I'm saying in preparation for that, we're gonna have to really cover Kawaki's character arc amongst a number of other things. So hence why I kind of expected to get a more slower character driven chapter like this, and I'm anticipating to get at least one or two more chapters like this for the most part. So there is definitely that. Now let's kind of start from the beginning, right? Now I was glad to see that we are pointing out that all 5 nations are, trying to do what they have to help out in the attempt to capture Code. I can definitely see from this point on, that when the anime catches up to this point, we'll get some anime original content focusing on other villages helping out. So, even though it's slower paced, they continue to put in those moments, I'd say, whether willingly or unintentionally, that's gonna help the anime to pad out and pace itself a bit better. So that was good, I like that. Now what's interesting about this chapter, apart from its slower pace as well, is of course the moments with Sumire and Amada with the new coffin. Yo, as I saw from Neverworld's title for his Chapter 60 review, is basically the Madara situation again, and who's in the coffin? So it's going to be wild. I'm finding it very interesting. It's a little, well, not a little, but a big breadcrumb in terms of us to keep us invested in what's gonna happen with the story. Like Amado building a next cyborg to help out Konoha. Like, yo, that's, who is it? Is it a Kashin Koji clone? Or, I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? So I like that. So even though it was slower pace, we got a bit of mystery to kind of sink our teeth in. So I actually like that. Now that aside, the character driven moments, such as starting with Kawaki. Now as I said, from chapter 58 till now, we've basically started his little character arc, kind of focusing on his internal, emotional, and psychological, conflicts that he's having, whether it be juggling, tradition versus how he gains power in a more efficient way. So tradition versus new generation, being a traditional shinobi versus embracing scientific ninja weapons, taking karma versus not taking karma. A lot of these factors are playing a part in Kawaki's character growth. But what I also liked is that the fact that Kishimoto has kind of slowed things down, and kind of is chapter after chapter, he's basically showing us how Kawaki's mental state is evolving, how he's kind of picturing himself as a person within Konoha versus, do I belong, do I not belong? And slowing it down to show us that kind of helps build things up for the eventual payoff that we'll get in the future once the time skip comes. So we see in this chapter where, of course, the citizens of Konoha continue to kind of peep him out, whispering. So it kind of adds to the feeling of not belonging in a believable way when it comes down to Kawaki's character. I think that's a natural, organic way of showing us that these are like some legitimate struggles and questions you'd probably be asking yourself if you're in Kawaki's situation. So I definitely like that, and actually getting that, like slowing down things to make it a character driven chapter, kind of helps showcase that much more clearly and efficiently to us, the audience. So I definitely love that. And of course, I found it interesting that he said he loved kind of staring out at the village from where, like, the Hokage monument. It kind of felt like foreshadowing, so that was interesting as well. Now, of course, we do have a decent amount of Naruto interactions with Kawaki in this chapter, and it was kind of wholesome to see that Naruto called him his stupid son. So I don't know, it's pretty wholesome. So it's just more of Naruto being Naruto, nothing too crazy just yet. But what I also loved about this chapter is the fact that the family dinner, the Uzumaki dinner with Kawaki, right? It kind of feels like more symbolism, more kind of callbacks to what we got in original Naruto, as during the dinner we have Boruto essentially give Kawaki his shinobi headband until Kawaki becomes a shinobi himself, full-fledged. And of course, there's a little disagreement in terms of Kawaki feeling like he shouldn't take it or not, etc. It looks weird on him, a bit of comedic moments here and there between the family, which it was altogether very wholesome. But I think beneath the surface, it really is setting up that symbolic link between Kawaki and Boruto that will eventually be broken, similar to like how how important the headband was between Naruto and Sasuke, and what it represented for them, and how much of an impact you as a reader or watcher felt when you reached the end of Naruto and Naruto gave back Sasuke's headband. So it's kind of like a similar situation like that. They're setting up like a symbolic kind of thing, especially since we're juggling those emotional and psychological conflicts that Kawaki is having when it comes on to, do I be a traditional shinobi, or do I be a person who embraces the new era and acquires power in a non-traditional way? Of course, once he does eventually decide to do the latter and gain power in a non-traditional way, it's going to impact and have much more meaning, especially in a symbolic way, because at that point he more than likely will throw away the headband more than likely. So you see what I mean? It's kind of building up to that, because of course in the flash forward we have him saying the age of shinobi is over, and what better way to tie in breaking that kind of bond between him and Boruto than throwing away the headband, which kind of falls in line with him saying the age of shinobi is over, because he would basically be giving away the headband. So it's kind of like a symbolic, poetic way of setting up the plot, if I'm being honest, and I actually like it. So it's kind of like when you, again, even though the chapter is slower, when you really break it down and look at the little things that Kishimoto is really setting up, it really is like kind of beautiful, kind of poetic and touching, in a lot of some shapes or form. Now, the next thing that I love in terms of having a character driven moment for this chapter, what actually worked, was having Naruto basically his conversation with Kawaki, right? It felt more so like a callback to the goal and the objectives that Naruto and Sasuke set out for themselves once they kind of came to an agreement after their final fight in the Valley of the End regarding achieving peace. And I kind of felt like it was kind of like a mini commentary on what Naruto's goal truly means in a more realistic sense, coming from the end of part 2 or Shippuden until now. Because of course some person think the idea of peace is idealistic, and it is, like true everlasting peace. Yeah, that's not realistic, but I think it was a nice touching character moment for Naruto when he was saying that, yo, if this village can't be a place where someone like you, Kawaki, can't just come and live comfortably, then I've actually failed as Hokage. And I thought it was like a nice little callback in a more realistic sense to what Naruto's and Sasuke's goals were by cooperating and ending the cycle of Indra and Ashura. So I thought that was nice as well. It kind of felt like a nice decent character moment for Naruto, and I like that because at the same time, again, it's kind of like I said in my time skip coming later video, it doesn't make sense we completely phase out Naruto or we phase him out simply for the sake of pushing Boruto. There has to be moments in the story where Naruto himself can be pushed, whether it be on a power or character driven moment, without compromising Boruto's rise to fame. So I like that with this chapter as well. So yo, I'm telling you, this chapter was actually pretty decent. Now, what I also love, Boruto had like a nice little character moment as well, because as I was saying during my live stream reaction to this chapter, we're slowly seeing Boruto again evolving as the main character. Before, when Momoshiki would have told him that those who defeat gods like can't remain ordinary people, and back then, thinking about that after the Momoshiki arc, he was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to tackle this. I wasn't gonna be normal anyway, as he said. But with everything that's happened, as we see him there in the chapter towards the end, when he's looking at his karma seal, whether he's wondering if the drugs are working or not, we're seeing his mindset and how he feels about the whole situation evolve. And not that it hasn't evolved before in terms of how his dialogue has been since, say, chapter 48, but compare now to then, he's not as perky or as headstrong into say, okay, yo, I'm gonna be normal anyway, I'm like ready to tackle this. There's like some nuance in how the main character feels. So I found that to be, it's not too in your face, because it's just a few panels there when he's in the bed looking at the karma seal, but I kind of got that vibe from actually those panels. So that was pretty chill as well, not gonna lie. So so towards the end of the chapter, of course, we have things setting up for Kawaki going on the next stage, going to the next stage of his little character arc, building towards the time skip, as he questions himself if Konoha is really where he belongs. And of course, someone has a plan or way to go about things without taking karma. And of course, naturally, I'm expecting something to go horribly wrong, or something to interrupt his whole plan to protect Naruto, that's gonna change his mind and force him to actually go ahead to get the new artificial karma. So there's that little setup there. But of course, as a lot of persons expected, and I haven't talked about it yet, but Team Kara 2.0, of course, we see in this chapter they're not fully aligned as I was expecting. Again, referencing my time skip video, we probably aren't setting the foundation for some conflict or some splitting between Aida, Code, and Daemon at some point. Potentially nothing too bombastic in this chapter, but just the seeds of it. And to be fair, in Aida's defense, as she said, as Code tries to find out how Daemon's abilities fully work, Aida prevents this, and they have a discussion about trust, and Aida puts out that, yo fam, we just met, so give it time, which is only fair in her defense. So there's that. But I think we're gonna get to a point where those little seeds of distrust is going to blossom into something that's gonna change the story or the dynamic between them in a way that benefits the story and makes it much more interesting. Because, you know, Team Konoha versus Team Code is one thing, but it gets a bit more dynamic and interesting once, you know, Team Code kind of has a little, they're not 100% aligned. It makes things more interesting, a lot more elements to play with when it comes on to, you know, capturing us, the audience, and keeping us invested. So yeah, man, that's pretty much it. So as I said, it's a pretty decent chapter. I feel like would it be right to say definitely a Kishimoto chapter? Because I don't know, it's slow for a monthly release. As I said, I can see persons not probably vibing completely with the chapter, but like when you, it's just like when you really break it down and look at all the elements at play and all the symbolism and everything that Kishimoto is really setting up, then it becomes like poetic beauty for the eventual payoff that we know we'll get in some shape or form. So yeah, so as I said, or as my final thoughts, really, I thought this chapter was beautiful, solid chapter. I don't usually give a rating, but like easily like a 8 out of 10 chapter for me. Wasn't bombastic, but it ranked up the points in other ways. So anyway, let me know what you thought about my thoughts, if I was talking foolishness or not. Leave a comment, leave a like. If you enjoy anything I had to say, definitely subscribe as well. And of course, as per usual, this is a discussion starter, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. But yo, respect for tuning in if you made it this far, and I'll see you in the next Boruto discussion or review.